I'm Alan Spears with Occupy Democrats, and if you are anything like me, you're growing increasingly concerned with former President Donald Trump's mental state. In a rather bizarre moment in one of his most recent speeches, Trump seemed to pause in the middle of what he was saying and just stare out into the crowd. Now, there are some that are saying that this behavior is merely the result of his teleprompter malfunctioning and stopping his flow, as it were. However, the former president has been very vocal about not needing teleprompters. In fact, Trump has been very passionate about his disdain for teleprompters, going so far as to even say he wants to outlaw them.
I jokingly say, if you're running for president, you shouldn't be allowed to use teleprompters. Because you don't even know the guy's smart. He's reading. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. This is wonderful. Speed that teleprompter up. Ba, ba, ba. You know, everybody's going to fall asleep in half an hour we leave. No mistakes, no problems. She's just reading it off a teleprompter. I say we should outlaw teleprompters for anybody running for president.
In a clip I'm about to show you, Trump pauses and seems to be very confused, as it were. However, this wasn't the only instance of bizarre behavior from this particular speech. I think we're all used to Trump's lies at this point. However, they seem to be getting increasingly complex and bizarrely specific. Take a look for yourself and see just how strange Trump has gotten.
Nation in the history of the world. But now, we are a nation in decline. So anyway, Macron calls. See what I mean? Look, I start. Even I say to myself, you're a frickin' genius. Hey, look, I had an uncle, my father's brother, who's the longest-serving he's the longest-serving professor in the history of MIT. He graduated, he was a phenomenal student, a real genius, really brilliant guy. And you know, I believe in the racehorse theory. Fast horses produce fast horses. He went to MIT, graduated, they said, we'd love to have you be a professor. He was there for, I think, 41 years. He's the longest-serving professor in the history of MIT. It's nice to know. Do you think Biden has that in his family? I don't think so. I don't think so. I may be wrong.
One thing you have to admit is that Trump is certainly not boring. Why the former president seems to be so against teleprompters is confusing. Now, I might be in the minority here, but I am of the mind that teleprompters are not necessarily weak or a crutch for someone to use, especially considering that if a president is giving a very large and very important speech to the general public or, say, a very important group of people, you want to make sure that you get that right and that you have everything that you wanted to say laid out clearly and concisely. To break a bit of the fourth wall here, while I don't use a teleprompter, I do have notes listed out beneath the camera to help guide myself and give me talking points and structure my video. This, of course, circles back to a question that Trump and many of his constituents have posed about President Biden, in that, is he mentally fit and mentally stable enough to serve as president? No. And let's not glide over the other issues that Trump presented in the clips I just showed you. First off, Donald Trump claiming that his uncle was the longest-serving professor at MIT is not something that we were able to confirm or validate through any research. Now, it is true that John C. Trump, Donald Trump's uncle, did serve at MIT for many years. There was no record or anything to indicate that he was the longest-serving professor or at any point served as president, as Donald Trump somewhat indicated at the front. Secondly, the racehorse theory. This has been something that Donald Trump has spoken about and brought up in numerous speeches, and you guessed it, there's cause for concern. The racehorse theory, as Donald Trump laid out, is the idea that strong racehorses, when bred, produce strong racehorses. Now, while the racehorse theory is certainly not even the top 50 most controversial things the former president has said or done recently, it should be noted that the racehorse theory very much parallels the eugenics theory in practice that we saw in Nazi Germany in World War II. Eugenics, of course, is the idea that human genes can be improved through selective breeding and the culling of inferior genes. And I hope it goes without saying how eugenics and the racehorse theory are very problematic. This is a man who has clearly eschewed the democratic process and the founding principles of our country and is going full steam ahead on his authoritarian dynasty and legacy as a dictator. Because let's be clear, that's really what Donald Trump wants. He wants to be remembered as the most powerful man in the world because it fuels his ego. But setting that aside for the time being, it seems pretty clear to me that Donald Trump is continuing to steadily decline. I dare say that he is not mentally capable and sound of mind to serve as president again.